These tutorials we're going to investigate curtain walls and particularly what you can do with curtain wall panels. The panels are the individual elements inside this curtain wall. For example, I'll use my tab key to cycle through so I can select that panel, and as you can see, that particular panel, I'm going to work through this tutorial and show you how we can add all this extra geometry to the curtain wall panel. So this sun-shaded louver device here is all part of the curtain wall panel. And so we'll work through these tutorials and show you how you can do that. To do that, I'll just go through and I'll open up a new project, and if you wanted to follow through this, we'll just stay with the standard architectural template straight from Revit. Create a new project there, and what I'll do to start with is just in a plan view, in a ground floor plan view, I'll put one curtain wall in place and we'll just play with that curtain wall. So I'll just delete this section line, clean the view up a little bit, we won't be using that. And so I'll put a curtain wall in, so it's the wall command, and then we've got to change the type of curtain wall here. So the one I'll use for explanation purposes down here will be this curtain wall 6mm thick glazing. So we'll pick that one, and just on this ground floor will do. I'll put a short length of wall in. Now if I go from the right towards the left, the front or the outside of the building would be to the bottom of the page, because if we work in a clockwise direction in Revit, then the windows or the walls will face to the outside. So what I mean by that is, well, I'll do this. I'll do say 9 meters in that direction, and then I'll go up another 6 meters. And if we're working clockwise, just like with walls in Revit, if we work clockwise, the walls are now facing towards the outside of that clockwise direction. Also, if we now just zoom in on those walls here, bring them into there. If you select the walls, the flip arrows, to give you an idea whether you place the walls in the right direction or not, the flip arrows will be toward the face the outside of the building. Okay, so if your flip arrows are flipping back on the inside, it means you went anti-clockwise when you laid it out, and then you can change it very easily by just clicking on these flip arrows here. Okay, now first thing I'll do is just zoom in on one little corner through here. So if we hover at the moment, all you can see is the curtain wall panel. There's been one panel placed in every curtain wall there at the moment. If we go into a 3D view, and if I turn shading on or something like that, so if we go to shaded, all you can see are in this case, glass panels, which make up the curtain walls. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll investigate those glass panels a little bit first. So we'll go back to our ground floor plan, and by default, a couple of things come in a little bit strange in Revit. So I'll zoom into one little corner through here, and if you hover over one of the curtain walls, initially it'll pop up the whole curtain wall will be selected, even though the only thing you can see is the glass curtain wall. It is actually selecting the wall as a whole, or the actual host element of the wall. But if you hover over the top of this panel here, this glass panel, and if you cycle through your tab key, just by tapping your tab key, you can cycle through different things. Now at the moment it's selecting all the other curtain walls that are joined to each other. I'll just zoom out a bit to show you what's happening there. So if I hover over one, I can select one wall. If I tap my tab key once, it now selects all walls. If I tap my tab key again, it has now picked up just the panel that resides inside the wall. So it's the panel that I want to investigate here at the moment. Now, while I've got that panel selected by using the tab key, if you come up to Edit Type and have a look at the parameters that have been assigned to there, you can see it was actually called, I think, glass curtain wall 6mm thick glazing, and strangely enough, it's been set to 25 millimeters thick. So that's just something standard default Revit. So the first thing we're going to do is change that to 6 millimeters. And then you can have a look at your glazing manufacturer suppliers details and find out what the offset of the glass would actually be for the glass curtain wall that you're using. Ones that I use quite regularly have got an offset of 52 millimeters. So from the center line of the wall, the center line of the glass is offset 52 millimeters away from the center line of the wall. So if we just make those two changes there and click OK, you'll see the changes that's made here. If I hover and get this dotted line to show up, I've now changed the glass to 6 millimeters thick, and the center of that glass is 52 millimeters away from the center line of the actual curtain wall assembly. Okay, so that's the first thing we're going to do. Now, the next thing we'll do is, I'll do this from a 3D view because it's a little bit descriptive. I might just put some mullions on first to make it look a little bit better. So if we go into the mullion tool up here, once again, a typical mullion that's available, that's used here in Australia, would be 45 millimeters by 150 millimeters, and that's the mullion that gives you that full 52 millimeter glazing offset. So I'll edit type this rectangular mullion 50 by 150. I'll click into edit type, and I won't use this 50 by 150 again, so I'll straight away rename it to 45 by 150. So that's the mullion that I'll use. So I've changed its name, so we now better change its dimensions. We'll leave the 150 the same as it was because it's 45 by 150, but the width on one side is going to be half of 45, 22.5, and the width on the other side is going to be half of 45, which is 22.5. So these two widths added up give the total width of the rectangular mullion. So if I click OK to that, and then if I just click on the edges of this curtain wall that I established here, we'll just use this one for the starters, we can see that we've got these mullions being displayed. If I was to divide that curtain wall up now, I could divide it in using a curtain grid, and I can divide the curtain wall. Quite often I'll divide, if you hover it along the edge of the curtain wall, you'll see that the snap seems to take over at a couple of places. It takes over at, it's saying here to me, 1/3 or 2/3 of the curtain wall panel. If I just escape out of this and come in again and show you that. Curtain grid, if I hover over the edge and come close to where I think, if I hover and wait, well, it's not doing it for me now, but it was. If you did look down the bottom left hand corner of my page, you'll see that it's snapping to 2/3 of the curtain wall panel, and over here it's snapping, there you go, it's snapping to the 1/3 of the curtain panel, and then in the middle here it'll snap to the midpoint of the curtain panel. So if I was to divide this up into thirds initially, and then the leftover piece that's left here, I can divide that into half, so we've now got 3 equals. And then if I was to divide each of those others into 3 also, I'm getting 1 meter sections through here now, and it makes it very easy in Revit to create those even divisions. Then if you come up, so if you hover while you're putting curtain grids in, if you hover over a horizontal edge, you'll get a vertical curtain grid. If you hover over a vertical edge, you'll get a horizontal curtain grid. So if I establish one curtain grid at 2400 above the bottom, I've got a line that I'll put another transom in, what Revit would call another mullion, but in fact it's not a mullion, it's a horizontal curtain wall element, which would be a transom. So I'll put that in there at the moment using the mullion tool. We'll divide that, and we'll divide all of these up. A few of them anyway. We'll just do this wall here as the example. Now, I might just delete these other walls here now, because we'll just work with that one wall to show the rest of the example of what I'm doing.